All right, here we go. Welcome all. Sorry that might be getting started a little late. Well, hardly. I apologize in advance for all my noobery with this equipment. This is my first stream. And, I've just kind of been messing around, trying to find things around, been getting things set up till, about 30 seconds ago. So I apologize in advance if there are any sort of issues with the streaming. Hello, all. I'm very happy that y'all are joining. Hello, stream within a stream. Yeah, watch my Infinity stream as my OBS stuff is. I still trying to figure out how I can just get it to show my Clip Studio art program so that I can avoid Infinity stream. Yeah, so... anyhow, this is the art program that I use, Clip Studio Plus. I highly advise it to anyone who is thinking about picking up art. Also, by the way, as I am recording this session, hello to all those people who will be seeing this in the future. I want to record this so I could show a little bit about my art process, about how I draw, how I do my layers, how I do my coloring, and kind of walk through all of this. I really appreciate you all joining me today, and anyone else who joins. I'll be checking the OBS every now and then, so I apologize for the Infinity OBS that will pop up every now and then as I check the messages. So feel free to ask me ask me questions about this. The playlist in the background is one of my relaxation playlists. I created this for this stream. A lot of stuff that I listen to while I'm drawing to help me feed my mental juices. I will post up a link to everything in the chat here. Let's see. And if you go to my YouTube channel, there will be an art or a Twitch art stream playlist where you'll be able to have access to all of the music that I am using for this. Alright, so today I am going to be drawing the Halberd. A little bit of background information on the Halberd. It is a polearm. It was one of the hybrid polearms that came out towards the late part of the medieval ages. Became incredibly popular as it was a combination of a spear and axe, as well as having a spike on the back end for some nice armor puncturing. It was very popular with most of the line infantry, guard units. Was used extensively by the Swiss Guard and by Swiss mercenaries throughout the medieval period, and is one of my personal favorite polearms, and the polearm that my character in Bonfire uses. By way of introduction, as I realized I neglected that, I am Seth Smith. I go by Scout the Ranger Dog on DeviantArt. I go by Fenrir Ulfsbane here on Twitch. Ace Vendetta on YouTube. I posted up the links, so all of those below. I am one of the artists for the Bonfire RPG, which I'll be doing work for today. It is a fantastic RPG that is just really detailed. And because the creator is wonderful, he's actually put out most of the materials for absolutely free. He does have a Patreon, and if you join that Patreon, you'll gain you access to the advanced rules and some of the extra information. And so I highly recommend doing it. A couple bucks a month, and you gain access to this, as well as you support a fantastic project and one of my favorite RPGs. You also would be able to join the Bonfire Discord, which I did not post a link to. I know that the creator, Trent, is currently watching, or one of his representatives is currently watching the stream, and I really appreciate him being here. So feel free to also pop in a link to the Bonfire Discord. I'll put that into the description that I'll create for YouTube. So I appreciate any attention that you give to them, any love that you give to them. Great game. I heartily recommend it. And especially being able to join us and figure out some of the more difficult aspects. It's a real-time game, so it is very different from your D&D, especially 5th edition. It is far more free, has a complicated and wonderfully, well, not necessarily complicated, but a wonderfully deep system for dealing with conflicts, both militarily and through oratory means. So I really enjoy it. It has been a super fun experience, and I am so happy for the chance that they have given me to work with the team and to do art for them. All right, enough chitty chat. I'll get going on the Halberd now. So pop up a reference picture just to show you some of the looks of this. So as you see, a very long pole arm, usually about 8 to 12 feet in length, and as you see, has a axe head and then a spear point. They were incredibly popular weapons. Now, just so we're looking at this to get myself a little bit of reference, as you see, there are so many variations on it. The variation that I'm going to do, I really like sort of this axe head bit, and then I think I'm going to have more of a spike versus the kind of downward curve, so more of an outward spike. All right, so the very first layer that I do is a very loose base layer, and I start out I don't need to worry about any of these lines right now. I'll be able to clean all this up, so I'm just going to kind of basically block out where I want the shaft of the shaft to be of the halberd. I think that's a decently well done. That's a shaft that will work for this. I'm kind of going to plot out that little point part. So the spear segment, come down here, going to have this. I want this to look a little longer. So up here I have a tool to be able to change around some of the scaling on this. I want it to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to shrink that down. I hope you enjoy the music. Most of this is by Two Steps from Hell and one of their artists, Thomas Bergeson, as well as Fox and Moore. All of them I highly, highly recommend listening to. I'm going to extend this a little bit further down. All right. Let's see. Kind of like that. Almost recurve axe head. If there's any issues with the stream, please let me know in the comments. I will be checking those from time to time. Try to. That's too big. Axe head. Something you'll notice about my art is I tend to draw stupid big. It's something that people have kind of pointed out and laughed at, but it helps me with being able to get the level of detail and smoothness that I like. This current little workspace is about 8,000 by 8,000 pixels. Well, hello! Welcome all of Jeremy's kids. I am so very happy to have all of you join me today and join us. I hope you all enjoy this. Alright. Once again, this is one of the beautiful things about working with digital art is I can readjust some of the scaling as I go to make sure that it fits into the workspace that I want. I kind of want a little spike bit down here. Alrighty. So yeah, this very first layer is I don't need to worry about anything that I'm really drawing out. I'm just kind of figuring out spaces that I like, getting some ideas that I can come in here and more solidly draw and turn into the full art piece and have more detailed lines and line working. All right. You know what? I think I might do a little cross cut out here on the blade portion. All right. And that's a decent first layer. So what I do after this is I create a second layer. This earlier layer I just need to delete, as this is for me doing some tests here while working on my stream. So I'm going to create a new layer. Now, something to remember about layers is they are layers, so ones that are above this will supersede the layers below. So if you have colors down here and you paint over it up here, it will cover the colors and the art of the layer below. If you don't want that to happen, you switch them around and it'll be okay. So once I get this base, I tend to dim it down so that I can see a little bit about like my base idea, and then I'm going to darken up this for this next layer, make my pencil a little bit darker so that I can, and more fine so I can draw out some of these details. The undo function is your friend. Never neglect it. Know it by heart. And don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to go back over. This is another little piece of advice while working with digital art. When working with digital art, try to save often and work in smaller segments so that if you have to backtrack, you aren't losing a lot of progress from any need to backtrack. Because like if I do this all in one go, then when I undo, I lose every bit of that line. But if I work in smaller line portions, I can get what I want and be able to correct what I want more easily. I apologize for all those notifications popping up. So the purpose of this second layer is not necessarily to be super accurate either. This is just to provide me with a little bit more concrete of line work. So I have once again, a little better estimation of what and where I want to work. Kind of blocking as well, some of the curvature by just sort of drawing a few little lines. Helps me to, when I start adding in some of the colors, to make me think about where everything sort of fits together. Round rather than squarish. Since everything's kind of like that, I'm going to hope you all enjoy the music. Yes, Lord of the Troglodytes, for those that don't know in the chat, is my fiance. Wonderful person. I very much appreciate her presence here on the stream and her support to me in all my efforts. She is absolutely wonderful. She is on DeviantArt as Lord of the Troglodytes. And she is a very talented and gifted artist herself. And despite all of her protests and saying that she's worse than me, well, I disagree very much with that. She is very talented, and the art that she does, I have no hope in hell of recreating. Sort of leather strapping. Do not like that angle, too much angle. And one of the things is always okay to kind of test things out. You tend to be a better judge of how things look than you realize. It's one of the first things in art I tend to tell people. People have a lot of experience with life, with how things look. And if it looks a little off, well, it's probably a little off, and you can try changing it around, test out a few things. Remember to always sort back out from time to time, check up how everything is going, how alignment is going. Alrighty. Let's actually bring that in a little bigger, a little thicker, so I can draw a little more loose here. And remember, it's okay with how I do the art. It's okay. It's okay if it is not exactly where you want to be right at the start. Because you're working on it. You're building it, making it better. I didn't like how thin it got down there. It kind of gave everything a little odd of a shape, especially as compared to the wooden shaft above it. Har, yes. So, I'm going to change it. That's okay to change things. In fact, it's kind of how life works. It's broken. It doesn't look right. You work a little and get it to where you like it. So another thing you notice while I'm drawing, I tend to like to do long strokes, and when you're doing this, you can keep doing it again and again until you find that right one. So don't push yourself too fast with it. Don't be afraid to say, that line, while was almost what I wanted, wasn't quite there. Because when you keep on trying, you will get it. You know what? Maybe I'll just do more of a weight piece here at the end than a spike. I'll put a small little spike on here. Fastenings for over here. Alrighty. Hello, Suisse. This is my immediate supervisor and the art coordinator for Bonfire. For those of you on YouTube watching this after the fact, I apologize. But she's also a very awesome and talented artist who has been doing the majority of the art, especially for the monsters for Bonfire. Very talented artist, and I admit I felt intimidated when I was initially brought forth the offer to work on the art for Bonfire, because they already had such a wonderful and talented artist working on it, and I'd have to live up to her degree of amazing artwork. So I'm very happy that they have felt that I have done so. But it's definitely been a daunting task, and she keeps me on my toes and keeps me competitive. All right. Alright, so this layer is looking pretty good. It's given me a good estimation of what I want. However, I am not happy with that, so I'm going to go change that real quick. Needs to be a little bit more kind of like that. Maybe more of a Maltese cross, too. That's better. Alright, so once I finish up this layer, since this is good enough, I can start into my inking phase. Now, the next couple are where things really slow down for art, in my opinion. The next couple steps after this is the line art and then the fill phases, which I'll show you when we get there. But I find they are where I spend the majority of my time working, and part of it is because these are the final lines. These are what you're going to be seeing when you look at the piece of art. So you want to take your time with this, make sure that you're putting your best foot forward here, and it will show in your final product. Right. If you find that you're having a hard time getting a line down, back it out a little bit. Give yourself a little bit longer of a space. And like that, you will find that you'll be able to get the piece that you wanted. Get the line that you wanted. Hope you all been enjoying the music. That was from Thomas Bergeson's Illusions album, one of my favorite albums of all time. Highly recommend it being checked out. For the lines, the same sort of principle goes for circles. Don't be afraid to keep practicing it over and over until you get the circle that you want, or one that is okay. Because you will get it, and with the more practice, the more attempts that you make, the more practice you'll become, and the easier it will be to get those circles that you want. Well, I'm actually glad that you haven't been hearing the notification sounds because they've actually been pinging off in my headset. So I'm glad that it is not being pumped through at least too loudly here. But no, it is not muted. For those on YouTube, talking about the chat where they get to tell me what sort of art I'm doing, what I'm working on, and general shenaniganry that goes on. As for the equipment that I'm using a Wacom tablet, the Intuos pen and touch medium size, a good little tablet that I highly recommend. It isn't necessarily cheap. It's about $200 new, but it offers a great range of accessibility, and Intuos just makes really, really nice products for digital art, and I very much like it and approve. So once again, I'm struggling with that art, so I'm going to back it out a little bit. This just makes it easier for me to draw longer lines and get like that. Interesting. We jumped out of my playlist. Still like this. This is another one of the artists I really like. Hurdy-gurdies, everyone. Awesome instruments. Old medieval instruments. You ever want to be instantly put into the feeling of being medieval, I fully recommend them. I'm listening to them. Go. Try to spare you from my massive tab list. So today, as I am one of those people that I must have 40 or so tabs open. Yeah, I'm that kind of trash. No, that is not me who drew that picture. It was indeed Lord of the Troglodytes. I thought I had made that clear when I had originally posted it, but I am sorry that I didn't. Yeah, she is the amazing and talented artist who is behind the the rat folk picture that I shared on that chat. Alrighty. And always remember that this line art is the final say in how lines look, so don't worry too much if it doesn't exactly match the under layers that you've established. There we go. Stop accidentally pressing my tab button on my tablet. This phase is also where I tend to start adding in little details, as I'll probably be coming back through and dirtying this up a little, as I know that my boss likes it a little bit more grunged up, a little bit more lived in, which I appreciate a lot. Even if I know that I just absolutely adore drawing brand new shiny weapons. Something that's also important to do from time to time is to go back and kind of turn off the underlayers so you can see kind of how things are looking without those lines, as those lines can give away some illusion that things might be a little bit more complete than you think, and when you move on to the to coloring it in and doing the blocking, doing the color blocking and layers, it might look a little wonky if you haven't checked it. So Alrighty. There we go. Oh. Another reason why I advise getting this model of Wacom tablet is some of the newer beginner models of Wacom tablet do not include styluses that have a reversible eraser side. And I just absolutely love that feature, so I had to get one that kept that feature. Go away notifications. I don't need any of you. A little bit of a woody texture. Oops. Alright, that's looking pretty good so far. want it. Alright, that's looking decent so far. So now I'm going to go through and start adding a little bit more detail, a little bit more worn nature to these for the actual line art part. So things like scratches in the metal, dents, etc. Don't be afraid to kind of go and change up little pieces where you had worked already. something to remember is wood is soft, so it will have deeper gouges in it from where like weapons would hit it than say the metal typically. Though you can always make sure that things look a little interesting with the metal by adding some nice little gouges in it. Well, I'm glad that you all are enjoying the music playlist so far. This is the stuff that I enjoy listening to make sure that I am having good brain waves flowing through my head for drawing medieval things. Thomas Bergson, Two Steps from Hell, always beautiful and wonderful things to listen to. All music goes to them. The credit all goes to them. I do not own any of this. It's just the things that I listen to get my juices flowing. Increase the size of my eraser so I can do a bit more fine work here. Now, something to remember with detail work is little details do make a nice difference, but the piece is going to be seen from, a bit further out typically. It's not usually going to be super zoomed up on all this. So working on super small details can be counterproductive overall if you spend too much time on it. You just suddenly find that it gets a little lost in the work. So the other little bit for detailing work, especially doing scratches, is to remember to add a second little line can help add a ton of depth, and you can enhance that even more by my train of thought derailed. You'll be able to enhance that even more during the coloring phase and make it pop out even more. Thank you very much, Holly. I really appreciate your compliments. That's weird. Kind of got a little laggy there for a moment on my art stuff. And you'll find that don't like how that looks. You'll find that when working with art programs, sometimes things can get a little laggy. My best piece of advice, especially when you first start working on drawing with a tablet, is just constantly keep your eye on the screen. You don't really need to look down at the tablet at all, because nothing that you're doing, you won't be able to see anything down there. Everything that you need to be working on, looking at, is on the screen. It can take a little bit of retraining to do that and to kind of enjoy a little bit of that change of pace and mindset and where you're looking at. Alrighty, so now I'm going back out. Look at this. Am I happy with this? I think that this is right where I kind of want it to be. So, at this point, I tend to turn off all the lines, and this is where things really slow down, unfortunately. Because this next step, next couple steps of graying and then and doing color layers will be the longest steps in this entire process. So, once again, this is also where layer position starts mattering a lot. So, if I came in here with a paintbrush and did this layer above this, when I paint over, it goes above the line. Now, when I move this down below the layer with the line, when I do this, it goes below the line mark. So it's going to help. So for this next step, I tend to just choose a gray and get a size of brush that typically will fit inside everything decently well to help save me from some of the longer parts of work. I start going through and coloring everything that I am going to be working on with this gray. Try to get not too close to the lines most of the time, because it'll help me not need to erase so much when I go through. Maybe that's just a weird sort of mindset, but I find that I like coloring in more than going through and erasing. All this initial part goes pretty fast. This is where the fun begins, as Anakin would say. Is now I get to go down real close, and the goal here is to make sure that everything that I'm working on is gray, and that I erase everything that is outside of the lines, that is outside of what I want to have colored. Spots kind of like this, you have to make sure that you figure out where your stuff is. And when kind of coloring through, it's real easy sometimes to jump through and miss these little spots. It's really important to go back and cover those. Make sure that those are all in. This will all make sense when I show you masking layers. You'll understand a little bit about why I can be really anal about how about this phase, this step. I really do believe that these next couple steps will help save you some of the most time in the long run. Little corners are always difficult. Those little spots, I tend to just accept I have to go back through and do some erasing there, so I tend not to be terribly careful with corners. In this phase of coloring in. Yeah. Now, you can use the fill option, but I tend not to. To use the fill option, you need to make sure that all your line art is closed cell, essentially. You need to make sure that all these little spaces are closed off perfectly, and I found that that just takes even more time than my current process. I did do that for a long time. But you have to make sure that you don't have like these little gaps right here, because then you'll bucket it and all of a sudden it fills in everything, and then you have to go back with your pen and go and figure out where is the gap and close it on up. And sometimes those little gaps are just little SOBs to find. Really difficult. So that's why I do this rather than just using a fill tool. You can use a fill tool, but it takes more time and more accuracy with your line work, and I tend to be really loose with my line work and not necessarily making them all touch together It also allows me to have more gradient in my line work rather than a really solid sort of thick line. Yeah, so see how I missed that little part? Stuff like that is real easy to miss, and if you aren't really careful and getting those little spots at the masking step, as I'll show you, you'll suddenly have little blank and blind spots when you color, and while it doesn't stand out with the gray, it will stand out like a sore thumb once you add color. The same thing goes for any of the gray pixels outside of your lines. When you mask everything off, you might not see it with the gray, but as soon as you color it, it looks really off. This is one of the parts where I have a hard time following my own rule of making sure that I work in small areas so I don't have to go back through and make sure you're lifting your pen up often so that you can undo smaller areas if you mess up. So like if I'm working getting all this and then I go whoop, I'm like, that's a lot of erasing. I have to redo all that. Now if I go like this, lift up my pen, go again, lift up my pen, and then do that, and then I suddenly just have a smaller area that I have to fix. So this is an area where that rule of often picking up your pen and working in smaller areas will help out. Doing just a quick little inspection for areas that I missed, like this interior area, before I move on to cleaning this up and erasing all the stuff outside the lines. Alright, here we go. Now I can kind of move on to going and erasing the little mistakes. I like to get up nice and close for this part. And when I say like almost any little pixel outside can be seen, I really do mean like almost any little pixel outside your line art will be seen. So it's really important to go over this and kind of clean up the edges and look for little pixels like that that aren't quite filled in. Because once again, they will just show up bright as day when you do the colors. So my boss just asked me how the animated armor is coming along. So it's actually at this stage. So this is another little quick sneak peek of another thing that'll be coming out here pretty quick. Animated armor. So this is at the line phase. I need to come in here and do exactly what I'm doing to this piece right now. I was originally planning to do all this, to show you all this with that particular piece of art. However, I decided, I might as well walk you through the beginning of my art process and kind of show you from start to finish how I work. Whether or not you use it, that's fine, but having perspectives always helps. Alright, so this part I'm just gonna bring in a smaller brush. Also, at this stage, if you want, you can always come in here to your line art area and clean up some of these lines that you might not be happy with. Something to be aware of: once you do that, you will have to go back over with the eraser on the gray out phase to make sure that you erase all the stuff that you just uncovered from erasing your line work. At the end of this stream, this video will be posted to my YouTube channel. This is why I like having a stylus with an eraser portion as well, because going through all this and having to manually go and switch back and forth between an eraser and the brush by going here, there, it'd take ages. Either that or I'd have to get really good at hotkeys, and I've always sucked at using hotkeys. I don't know if this is from anything in particular. I do know that this is from the Illusions album by Thomas Bergson, and is one of my favorite pieces of his, which is... Now, something I like about using thicker lines, especially on the exterior of your drawing, is it gives you kind of this little wiggle room for when you're erasing that you can kind of work over, and you aren't going to erase some of the coloring that you did within the line. So all right, and I think I am done with this this segment. So now let me show you why it is important for me to do this. So I come over here to my auto select tool, click out here. And since this is on the grade layer, not the line art layer, it'll go and cover the parts that are grayed out. Something you need to remember is if you have any interior spots, hold down shift and come in here and get those as well. They come down here to mask selection, and you'll notice this pop up over on the layer. Now what this means is, this is something I like to do. So I like to, once I get this, I like to have my line art outside of a folder where I'm going to have all the different parts for my coloring. And then I put this mask selection on the folder, so it'll apply to every single layer within that folder. Now what this selection does is, if I come in here and I had a brush, and now I'm on here, make sure I have selected the layer and not this, because if I have this selected and I draw out here, it'll actually create an area out there that I would have to paint over. So then I'd have to come back to here and go through and erase all that mess that I just made on that exact same layer, so that it won't be painted over. Now if I have it on this layer and not that, and I have the black, I can be painting out here and there's nothing. Now when I paint in here, you see how it keeps inside the lines. It's beautiful and it's amazing, and this will help you a lot with the next step. So now I'll go and redo this. Now for the long part. So that's going to save us a lot of the work. You aren't going to have to worry about painting outside the lines. You'll be able to keep it looking nice and neat. Next part is creating the color layers, which I do in this folder. And once again, it is important to remember their location in the order of layers, because at this stage, if you paint over one of these layers, you can cause some potential issues, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit later. All right, so now I'm going to try to find a good steely blue, bluish gray, a little bit more. Let's do it a little darker. I can come in here. Now, the cool part is, if I have an area like this, which I know is all steel, I only really need to be careful about this smaller segment where it connects to something else. Alright. Once I'm sure I have all that gray part up here all filled in, I can come out here and do this select again. Let it take its time. And once again, mask this layer. And now, if I were to paint on the layer beneath it, this is why I do it, it won't paint over what I've have up here. So I have this base layer. Now, something you can also do is, like if you have several parts, so what I honestly, I'll actually kind of go back and to this layer. Wait, oops, that's not what make sure that my right color is selected. And I can come down here to areas that are going to be a similar material or the same material, and also put them on this exact same layer, especially if they're separated little areas. And that way I can kind of reduce the amount of layers that I'm doing. The problem with it is you just have to remember the layer, what it is. You can always come over here and name them to keep it more easily remembered. Alright, so I'm going to come in here. Select all. Oops, gosh darn it. Alright, and I can see how it has those areas selected. And create that mask. Now I move back down to this gray layer, and since now I know this is going to I'll create a new layer, and this new layer will be created beneath this layer. So I know that I'm not going to be coloring over any of the spots that I just worked, which will help sort of speed this along. You know, I kind of want like a yellowish wood, so we'll come down here with kind of palish, almost flesh tone. And once again, these don't need to be the exact colors that they'll end up being. This is, I'll kind of show you, because this layering and doing this process is actually going to ensure that you can change up these colors on the fly very easily and be able to change things up very rapidly, which is one of the reasons why I really like doing it. Now here's where I gotta be careful, make sure I don't get it to where I don't want it. Since this is definitely lighter and a little harder to see, I'm going to take a moment, make sure that I go through everything and make sure I got the things I want. So actually, here's a really good part. See how I can see a little bit of this wood color down here? That's because on this mask layer, I didn't quite fill in well enough. So how I can fix this I take a sample of this. I go over here to this mask layer. Let's make bring it over here. Go over. Now, no, it hasn't changed color, but that's because I haven't gone over here onto the actual layer and changed up the color to paint over it right there. And that way, it is now fixed, and I know that's not going to become a problem again. Go away, notifications. I don't care, email. Right now is not the time. Then I can move back to this layer. Making sure that I have it where I want it. I get all these little gray areas out of the way. An alternative way that you can do this is actually just to worry about the borders and not worry about coloring interior area. Ooh, now see down here I actually went a little too far. So I can do that. How I can fix that is I come up here to this mask layer. And let's scale that down. And I can come in here and clean that up. And that's no longer going to be in the way. So now I have this part done. You come up here and look at this part. Once again, I have a little bit of over area over here. Back those off. Make sure I'm back on the layer that I'm currently working on, so that I don't accidentally go and ruin things, or mess them up slightly. Not ruin. Undo is your friend. And it works miracles. There's a little pixel right here that I kind of missed earlier, so I can come in, same thing with this overall mask, and just go and get that right back in. I come back in here and can color in that. Okay, yeah, I'm liking how that color is. I can come in here, have that done. Alright, that's different. And because I'm streaming, it's causing a little bit of some issues with my program, but not too bad. So I mask this selection, and now it's the same thing with that. Then I go, rinse, repeat for this leather wrap segment. And now, since I'm actually at a point where we'll go with kind of dark brown leather, where I have everything else pretty well masked out, I can actually just like even go honking huge and just color in that. That all masked off. Now I accidentally hit inside the colored area, and I don't want to do that. I want to hit outside the color area, because if I hit inside and then I hit that mask, then it'll let me color outside of that but not inside of that area. And the way I can tell is I make sure that I have that little line that moves around the entire border of my page. If it's not there, I've hit inside it. So I'll mask this selection as well. There we go. Now, if you look at these masks, you'll kind of notice that, like, it'll show the wider area, but since, they are currently layered the way that they are, now if I move this layer up like this, see how it screws it up? Move it back down, and we're back in business. Alright, now the last thing I kind of like to do is I like to do a details layer. Now this will be the very top layer, so I can actually go over the things that I've done. And that'll be for like these screws, for this little piece here, and for like these little pieces here. We'll kind of go with a brassy sort of orange. Bring our stuff back down. Since we're working with small details, I'm going to come in here nice and close. Make sure I get it right the first time. Back to get even closer. Because of stuff like that. Hello there, little friend. Piece I missed right there. Alright, come back to this layer. Get back to that color. Now again, I have to be nice and careful in these areas because it will allow me to color over everything since this layer is at the very top. An alternative way is you can always just do the details first and worry about the other layers after it. I tend to like getting the larger areas done. Helps me feel like I'm making progress. Size this down some. Oop. A little lag there. Now see, I can also come in here and be like, you know what? I kind of want this area to be wood. So I'm actually going to go ahead and mark this. Yeah, I'll change that up. But I'm going to make that into wood beneath it. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that area off on my details layer. Going to kind of like what I did in the leather area. I kind of want this to actually be wood beneath this, so I'm going to Mark this area out as well. All right. Hey, folks, I actually am going to take like a 5-minute break. I just need to stand up, go use the restroom. So I'm going to cut off the stream here and return in 5 minutes. Either that or maybe I'll just leave this going. But yeah, feel free to stand up, move around. I'll make this mask layer real quick. Alright. And now I know that I'll never need to worry about going over these little details and ruining these little details. Alright, folks, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Alright, and back. Just had to stand up, stretch out, grab a pillow for my butt, because this is a very hardwood chair that I'm sitting on right now. Alright, so we've gotten past some of the really hard parts of this, and now it's on to the really fun part, the coloring. These previous layers are what really makes it able to be a very fun segment, because now I don't need to worry about myself working over the progress I have already made. I'll be able to change it up as I wish. So like say, I look at the handle segment and I'm like, okay, the handle segment, I'm not the biggest fan of the color. So maybe I'd like a deep red, and I can come in here and I can figure out what I want as my base color. I don't even need to really worry. I just make sure that I get everything nice and well. I have no worry that I've just ruined anything else on my part. And I don't like that. Say maybe I should try out a blue. See what like a blue would look like. And once again, you can go and you can do it, and once again, you don't worry about ruining the piece that you have already made. Let's go back. I'm not the biggest fan of this brown, so I'm going to change up this color of brown. Maybe make it a little more red. Okay, yeah, I like that a lot better. Maybe the steel part. Let's change up that color a little bit. I want it a little bit brighter, perhaps. So let's see about this. Now, I'm kind of a fan of the tri-color shading system. So essentially what I do is I tend to pick a primary, what the main color will be, and then I select a highlight for the parts I want to have brighter. I can always come back and fix the issues with that base color that I found. Oop. Since I want the blade even shinier than usual, I'm going to just have a slightly more dullish highlight here for the other parts. Now, I do tend to break my rule of 3 and add an extra layer of highlights and some lowlights, but that tends to be a little further down along the process. And you don't need to be terribly worried about mistakes because you can fix them nice and easily with this. little bit of a highlight here along these blades too. Excuse me. I beg all your pardon. Let's change up the background of this so everything stands out a little bit more than the white. Oops. And see, when you change this up, this is another thing that you can do earlier. If you change it up and you kind of look around, see, those little spots just stick right out. But you can always go fix them by selecting that layer mask, going a little bit of erasing. So I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup real quick. Should have done this earlier, but I forgot to. I was thinking about it, and I just forgot. It's one of those things I'm trying to make more of a habit than just working on a plain white background. Alrighty. What the devil? That was weird. So I zoomed in and went elsewhere. Alright, there we go. So now I got that all done. Let's see, let's actually make this light door so that that highlight stands out a little bit more. Oops. And that is why that back is our friend. Now, if we pop that highlight up, that's going to make that stand out much better. The tool for changing colors is your friend at this, especially right now. Now, something to help kind of give some of these scratches a little bit more depth is to make sure that you run either lowlights or highlights by them. That shows that, you know, there's an actual difference in the height. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Y'all are too kind. There we go. Lost my cursor there for a moment. Low light for the blades. Quite the same as, you know, it's shaved metal rather than the more unrefined part. Alright, now let's create a general low light for this. Now, something that you want to do, and something that I completely forgot to do, is kind of try to work as much over the same area, or over the entire area that you have kind of set out. So like up here, you know, it's really good, but I completely neglected to work down here on the same sort of colors that I have over here. So just now with my brush, I tend to like to have it so that it drags a little bit of the color, so that there's some slight transitionary colors and such. Now, something with scratches is often there is, you know, because it goes in low, but there is that little edge that's kind of higher up, which will catch a little bit more of a highlight after that dark low light. just kind of going through and making sure that I'm kind of liking where everything is at. Let's go ahead and do a slightly darker area too. Hello there, friends. Weep boop doop. Alright. I'm almost happy with how the metal is turning out. I just need to add some of these deeper dark parts down here. The deepest, darkest parts. Alright. Yeah, I like how that metal's turned out. What do y'all think? Sorry, just got super concentrated. Often happens when I just start really focusing in. I apologize for kind of disappearing there and going quiet. Just was starting to enjoy the music and getting into my happy place. Alright. Yeah, I think that will do it for the metal. Awesome. So now let's move on to the wood. Let's see. Do I want to change up the color of the wood at all? Maybe make the base a bit darker. Yeah, let's make the base a little bit darker. Base wood. Let's see. Entirely erase all that. I actually quite like that as kind of the highlight, so I'm going to keep that. So actually, let's just do this real quick. I'm just going to that. Yeah, work the shaft jokes, I know. Alright, so now I've gotten... Yeah, I like that much more as just the base. I certainly like this as my highlight, though. So I'm going to come in here, a little brown down, to come in here for some of the low lights. Ooh, I'm already liking how that turns out. I love it when a good plan comes together. Alrighty, so I'm going to come in here and kind of same thing with the little cracks, just kind of... Oh, shoot. It seems like my OBS disconnected there for a minute. Am I still there for all y'all? Ah, shoot. It seems like my internet went out. Oh, shoot.